Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I just lived through one of my worst nightmares as the Digital Asset Investor, and that was that we did a late birthday for my 7-year-old, and we went to one of those trampoline parks, those indoor trampoline things where they all go in there and the whole place is a trampoline. Well, I had to sit there for 2 hours while all of the kids did their trampoline thing. I'm not a germaphobe by any means, but those places like that, or like a Chuck E. Cheese or any of those type places, I just feel it's almost like walking into a place. It's almost like there's radiation everywhere. I'm scared to touch anything because there are so many kids coming through these types of places who all have so many different germs. I wasn't like this when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I think about things like this. And I'm always thinking, man, I just can't touch anything. I don't want to get sick. You know, this is that time of year, school's starting. You got all these kids, everybody's getting 100 different kinds of sick. And so I know I shouldn't be that way, but every time I go in a place like that, those are the thoughts that are going through my mind. But I survived, and I kept my hands off of things, and I did use some of that stuff you put in your hands and wash your hands. I did that a couple of times. So I think I'll be all right. But please don't misunderstand. I am not a germaphobe. It's just those kinds of places that get me. First, I got this from Brown Melancholy XRP at Mike Honcho _11. He sent me, now this is a video I've covered on this channel before, but it's one of my favorite videos that I've ever seen from anyone that works at Ripple. And this was from Stephen Bull from the Dieppe. At Dieppe, SANH, great follow. He puts out a lot of these short, a minute and a half type videos. This is a video, and I just showed it to my wife. Every once in a while, I show my wife things to let her know just how big what we're part of is. And I asked my wife this question: have you ever seen anybody that works for any company get on stage and make these kind of bold claims like this guy does in this clip? I have not, and she said she had not either. Says, boom, no hype. And he literally says this. He's on stage telling the people in the audience about Ripple, and he's talking about what Ripple's plans are. He literally says, we're here to make a dent in the universe. He says, he basically says, we're not here to just make some money. He said, and then he goes on, he says, just cross-border remittances is a $155 trillion problem. We solve this first, then we look at something else. He says, we're like Google for search, Ripple for remittances. And he made it very clear in this video, we're not here to just make some money and to do this and to do that. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Folks, if they put a 1/10 of a dent in the universe, do you know what that means for you and I? It means a lot. It means a lot. It means that we'll be rolling with some kilo G's, to quote, was that Dr. Dre back in the day? And don't interpret that to mean that we're talking about drugs here or anything. All I mean by that is we'll be rolling. That's what I mean by that. But anyway. Now, maybe, was that Eazy-E back in the day? I can't remember which one. Anyway, they got this from at ECOSSEXRP1. Now, as you begin to see these regulations, this is a prediction I've made in the past, and I believe that you're going to see more and more of this. With all digital assets, we have several risks that we assume when we buy digital assets, just like any investment, but digital assets are riskier than some. But one risk that you take on when you buy privacy coins is a risk that the others don't have, or most of them don't have. And that is what I believe is going to happen as regulations come into play. These exchanges are going to be cracked down on, and they're going to be told, you cannot have any of the privacy coins on your exchanges because they don't want any of these people to be able to use these privacy coins to hide money from the tax man. And that's what happened here. Now this says Coin One, but the wording says Coinbase has announced the removal of Zcash from its UK platform. So I don't know which is which. Whoever wrote this article did a poor job of clarifying that. Start of the privacy coin downfall, governments just won't allow them. And I believe they're right here. I don't own any privacy coins, and I'm not going to, because that's one risk that I can't afford to take, an all-out ban. I'm not doing that. So, all right, Michelle Vandenberg sent me this one. And this is, now I am seeing a ton of economic news right now where the whole theme is, look, this has never happened before. Something huge is about to happen. This is about to get really scary. I'm seeing a lot of that right now, and I'm about to show you many of them. And first one is this. Everything has changed. Gold is at an all-time high in 73 countries. I don't think the gold cartel can do what they have been doing. Everything has changed, and it has to do with the physical market. What they're saying, I believe here, is that gold and silver and a lot of the precious metals, and I believe this too, in fact, JP Morgan people have been convicted. I don't know if they've been convicted, but they have gone through criminal proceedings about fixing the silver market. I believe that they have been rigging the gold and silver and precious metals markets for the last 10 years. If we lived in a sane world that wasn't manipulated and things weren't done that were crooked like this, I believe gold and silver would have been through the roof. I believe digital assets would already be into the $2 to $3 trillion range as far as total market cap if there was no manipulation that goes on. But over time, as more and more money comes in, that will be no, I mean, you'll have manipulation, but it won't be on the scale that it has been. Okay, next, Shinu Patel 29's on fire. He has sent me several things that I want to show you. So go give this guy a follow. I mean, this guy works hard. He sends me a lot of good information. At Shinu Patel 29. Okay, first thing he sent me is this. This was an Anthony Pompliano tweet and an awesome reply. I want everyone to learn about Bitcoin. Because of that, I'm giving away 10 free subscriptions to my newsletter, Lionel, at Lionel462945550, asks, he kind of tells him he makes him a legitimate statement here, and he says, if you want them to learn, tell them about China, how China controls 87% of the mining, and how China can do a 51% attack. Bitcoin can also be reorged. Bitcoin processing time can take hours to days. Tell them about the huge fees to transact in Bitcoin. You don't highlight any of the risks. And unfortunately, I like Pompliano, but unfortunately, everything he's saying right here is true. And they never talk about it. They never talk about Bitcoin technologically as compared to better digital assets such as the greatest digital asset ever created, XRP. They won't ever compare them because they can't. Now this was also sent by Shinu Patel, and this is another great video where Ashish Burla lays out how XVIA and XRapid and all that interconnects with these financial institutions. You should go and watch that. You can find it at Ripple Press. And then also from Shinu Patel, this is a Stewart XRP, who's also a definite follow. MoneyGram global network of over 200 countries. Look at how big what Ripple just became a part of is, folks. These guys are everywhere. Look where they are right here, just as a point of fact. Liechtenstein. You know what I may do in the end is while I'm in Liechtenstein celebrating my XRP riches, I may do a little MoneyGram transfer just for the fun of it. But look, MoneyGram is everywhere, folks. What Ripple has just done is going to change the world. It's going to put a dent in the universe, to be more specific. Okay, then Pompliano tweeted this. JP Morgan published a report on Friday claiming the Fed will have to restart quantitative easing, print money, sooner rather than later to combat to combat an upcoming liquidity crisis. Bitcoin success formula, cut rates, print money, Bitcoin halving. Then Rhythm Trader comes in and says, so where's the dollar going? We forecast a moderate decline over the next 10 to 15 years. That's JP Morgan. When even banks start to get concerned, you know it's bad. I'd feel more comfortable with only Bitcoin in my portfolio than none. Now, folks, I want to tell you, and just make sure you understand this when we talk about the things that the government, the QE and all this business. They don't have any choice, folks. These politicians are a bunch of cowards, and not one of them has ever had the guts to stand up and talk to the American people like adults and say, now listen, politicians, all they would have to do, and they would probably get elected in a landslide if any of them ever stood up and said what I'm about to say. Listen, American people, we have been cowards. We have kicked this can down the road as long as we could. We all knew behind the scenes, we all knew that this could not be done over the long haul. We knew that this was irresponsible, but everybody kept going for getting reelected instead of doing the responsible thing. There are literally hundreds of government programs that we cannot afford. We cannot afford to keep these going. We are in over $22 trillion in debt. We can't afford these programs any longer. You and your neighbors are going to have to tighten your belts, and it's going to be a really bumpy ride, and you're going to have to do the responsible thing. You're going to have to get out of debts. We're going to have to get out of debts. But the only way that's going to be done is for us to stop making promises to you, the American people, that we can't keep. If we don't do this, we're going to have an utter collapse. And if the collapse happens, well, then it's just going to be chaos at that point. So you have to choose between starting on a responsible path and not getting all mad at the politicians at this point, or we just wait for the coming chaos and keep doing the stupid thing and kicking the can down the road and raising the debt ceiling and going into more debts and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Those are the two choices. So that's what your vote will be this time. But none of them will ever say what I just said. Not one of them. Not anybody. They may say it, but they won't follow through with the action necessary. Because the second that they do start following through with the action and turning off government programs that we can't afford and all of those things, they'll be voted out of office and we'll be right back to the same thing. And therein lies the problem. And so what you need to prepare for and what I need to prepare for is the collapse, because there will be a collapse. It's just nobody knows exactly when, but I believe you're seeing flashes of the results of what these people have set us up for right now. It says, so when even banks start to get concerned, you know it's bad. I'd feel more comfortable with only Bitcoin in my portfolio than none. And then we see this. Where's Bob? At Bob in Deep XRP. So the Chinese have protests going on. As protests in Hong Kong surge, so does demand for cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not going to get deep into this article. I just wanted to show you that chaos is beginning around the world. And it's a part of what I just described to you. And we're starting to see these weird things pop out too, folks. Like this from Jaquito McPhee. Flabbergasted. Chase Bank forgives all credit card debt for Canadian customers. Now, if you want something that should send red flags off in your mind, when credit card companies start forgiving people's credit card debt, I don't care where it is or how many people, I don't care if it's just one person. Have you ever in your life heard of anything such as this? Not me. So I went and I read the entire article, and nowhere in this article does it give you a reason why they did this. Not anything legit. Here's what happened. Chase made the decision to exit the Canadian credit card market. As a part of that exit, all credit card accounts were closed on or before March 2018. A further business decision has been made to forgive all outstanding... what just happened? These ads just drive me crazy. They're everywhere on these sites. But it says decision has been made to forgive all outstanding balances in order to complete the exit. Maria Martinez, Vice President of Communications for Chase Card Services, said in a statement. Chase declined to say how much debt was forgiven or how many customers were affected. It wasn't immediately clear when the decision was made. I was sort of... Anyway, so the point is they do this whole article, but they don't even tell you why they did it, folks. This is creepy. That is just creepy. Chase Bank forgives all credit card debt. There's something to this, and whatever it is creepy. That when you start seeing things like that, it freaks me out. Now, this is the third time I have shown you this piece of news. Michael Arrington from Arrington XRP Capital is now tweeting it out. Denmark's third largest bank is now paying people to take out a mortgage from zero hedge. Yes, I hardly understand it either. In fact, I said it can't happen, but we have figured out how to have a negative rate mortgage. This is the guy, I guess this is the guy that runs that bank. They're going to pay people to take out a mortgage, folks. This has never happened before. This is the upside down world that is created when central planners try to run your monetary system instead of having actual free market capitalism. This is what happens. We are now in the upside down world. Enter digital assets and the greatest digital asset ever created, XRP. A great place to be. And finally, NBK Crypto at NBKLYRAD sent me a John McAfee update. He says, my last comment on the gun conflagration, prostitution, marijuana, and forbidden booze until I feel otherwise. So, I haven't even watched this yet, but I'm going to watch it, and you should too, because he never disappoints. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family that John McAfee is going to give you a little lecture here on prostitution, marijuana, and forbidden booze. And you should listen. Thank you for listening.